When we talk about a history of childhood trauma, we talk a lot about problems, the damage, the limitation on our lives, the sadness. But in reality, a lot of us are thriving despite abuse and neglect in the past because we are resilient. I'm Anna Runkle, also known as the Crappy Childhood Fairy, and overcoming the effects of childhood PTSD, it's not easy, and it's not a road I'd choose for anyone, but if that's the hand that life dealt you, it is possible for you to blossom into a life of depth and love and purpose. Now, resilience is often mentioned as the thing that explains why some people go through rough childhoods but seem to rise above all the harsh outcomes that are common and normal. And I think it's tempting for some people to think that resilient people are just extra clever or that they have a special kind of DNA. And we are all different. But resilience is something that we can all practice. It's a frame of mind we can develop. It's like a muscle that makes us strong enough to face the obstacles that abuse and trauma placed in our lives, and then walk around them. Now, some people worry that trying to be strong means denying what happened, but I don't see strength that way. Developing a strength never requires denial or pretending everything's fine. In fact, strength just allows us to have those traumas be true and keep growing anyway, so that we can honestly be ourselves with all the wounds and all the brilliance and become the people we were meant to be. And this is the way, not with fake smiles and platitudes, but with honesty, that life starts getting really good. So this is the first video in a series I'm making about resilience, and it's kind of an overview, and I want to tell you about 8 strengths that anyone can work on to get better at dealing with the obstacles that are so common for people with childhood trauma. First, I'll talk about the obstacle fear. Yes, all people have fear, and yes, sometimes it's appropriate, but I'm talking about another kind of fear, the free-floating hamster wheel kind of fear that runs through our heads and keeps us small and stuck. And I know if you have childhood PTSD, you know exactly what I'm talking about. The word for that is still fear. And lots of people talk about it, but in my video on fear, I'll show you what to actually do with fear so that you have less of that. I'll teach you the strength that allows you to get free like that. I'm telling you, if you're not subscribed to this channel now, this would be a good time to do that so that you get to see this whole series. The second obstacle I'm going to cover in the series is sickness, the physical depletion, the little aches and pains and the increased incidence in adulthood of serious diseases in people who had higher than normal levels of stress in their lives as children. The strength I'll teach you around this is self-care, not flowers and rainbows and bubble baths, but a common sense commitment to get the sleep, food, and exercise you need to help keep the symptoms of childhood PTSD more controlled. The third obstacle I'll talk about is paralysis. Have you had that? Where you're just unable sometimes to take the most obvious common sense action, even when you know it's the right thing to do, like leave a destructive relationship or even little things like getting to work on time. If you struggle with taking action, this is really important. It's a good video for you to watch. They all are, but this one is here to remind you that you don't have to have massive plans for transformation. You just have to start taking action. Action is a strength, even if it's just one action to get things moving a little bit again. And remember, all accomplishment in your life started in the same way, with one action. The fourth obstacle is avoidance. So whereas in paralysis we want to take action but don't, with avoidance we don't want to take action and we don't. From the outside, people think it's always just laziness, but sometimes when you have childhood PTSD, showing up and taking responsibility can be so overwhelming that we risk falling apart in front of everyone. And of course, part of us wants to avoid things, so the strength here is showing up. We don't have to take everything on. We can start by just showing up and staying connected with life and with groups if they'll have us. Participation is how we grow on every level. And when we're out there participating, guess what? We're included. The fifth obstacle is confusion. Now, those of us who experienced abuse and neglect when we were little often have a terrible time detecting which people are good for us to open up to and count on, and which ones are unreliable or unavailable or even abusive. This is the biggest reason that so many of us end up in painful relationships or making mistakes that are mortifying to us. We inherited confusion from the chaos at home. It's totally not our fault, but now we need clarity. And to see clearly, we'll need to cultivate strength in discernment. If you keep working on discernment, it might take a little while for all the problems to get moved out of your life, but you're going to start doing a really good job in not letting new problems in. The sixth obstacle is loneliness, and this one is the most pervasive and the most painful obstacle of them all. And no, we are not the only people to feel isolated and lonely. It's common for all too many people, but given the way that complex PTSD and childhood PTSD can harm our ability to connect with people, we are very much in need of a strength that builds that connection. And that strength is love. And we'll dive into love in that video too. The seventh obstacle is discouragement. Now, a lot of people who experienced early trauma have come to view their symptoms as permanent, their healing as hopeless, but that is never true. Healing is always possible, and the strength that helps us stay with every bit of healing that happens is gratitude. And gratitude helps us accept and incorporate our progress and to stoke the flame of hope inside. When hope shows up in my heart after a rough period, I want to run to the rooftop and say, thank you, thank you. Gratitude and hope are like a full tank of gas with your whole life ahead of you. The eighth obstacle and final video in this resilience series is emptiness, which almost always arises when we're so consumed with our grief and fear that we lose sight of our purpose. So what do I mean by that? Everyone is born with gifts to bring to the world, and we will not be truly happy until we find that purpose, that gift, and use it for the benefit of everyone. Purposefulness is the strength at the top of the mountain. It builds on all the other strengths to bring fulfillment and goodness and usefulness to our lives. And that is the sweet spot where all this healing leads. So that's what you can look forward to in the videos ahead. If you're not yet subscribed, hit that button and be sure you get notified each time a new video in this series comes out. And if you want to start healing from a traumatic past right now, go to the description section below and click on my course, Healing Childhood PTSD. It covers all the basic info that provides a backdrop to this video series, and it'll help you get the most out of the series. And I'll see you in the next video.